Hello all. Alright, a little rain outside today, good for the drought. We'll see if we can go up and get a look at barges on San Francisco Bay, and for right now let's go check out what's on the board. Okay, let's talk about Brent crude for a while. Brent crude actually fell below $60 a barrel, and that hasn't happened since 2009. Now, OPEC members supply a great deal of Brent crude oil. They supply about 40% of the oil to the world, and Brent crude supplies about 50% of all the gasoline on the planet comes from Brent crude. It used to come from sweet Texas crude, but we use most of that up and never thought about what happens when we run out, and so now we're stuck with the lower grade fuels. So many of the OPEC states, such as Angola, Algeria, Iran, Venezuela, and other OPEC nations are under stress, they're calling it. For example, in Venezuela, they're about to default on its bonds, but there's even more. Nigeria's currency fell against the dollar to its lowest since 1999. Okay, let's talk about Saudi Arabia for a few minutes. Saudi Arabia set up a fund after 2008's crash that would insulate it from any more crashes or oil interruptions of any kind. They have billions. So what Saudi Arabia said is that it's going to use this money to start improving its infrastructure, like public education, universal health care for their citizens, transportation, and yes, they're going to spend a lot more on security. What a waste. So a while back when the U.S. started its shale exploration and pumping of oil and natural gas, it became obvious that it was starting to compete with the OPEC nations. So the U.S. had the balls to go over to Saudi Arabia and ask them to lower their output so that the U.S. could continue to exploit shale gas and ruin its country. And you know something? That really pissed off Saudi Arabia, as it should have. Saudi Arabia has been pumping a lot more oil than the U.S. has, and they have just as much right to the revenue from the oil as the U.S. The U.S. thought it had the right, and that Saudi Arabia and OPEC would cut their amounts so that the U.S. would continue drilling. Well, that's not what happened, is that Saudi Arabia said we're going to stay the course, and is now pushing the U.S. frackers out of business. Also, the world's exploration for oil is now on the decline. So that means that oil output is going to suddenly drop pretty drastically, as I predicted. Nigeria is saying that they believe that the oil prices will rebound by 2015, somewhere in the middle, maybe the second quarter. We've been seeing some pretty dramatic changes in supplies around the world. Let's go over to the board and look and see what's going on. The EIA is reported that gasoline supplies around the world have rose by 5.3 million barrels since December 12, 2014. But there are also supplies that are starting to go down because of lack of production. One of them is the U.S. crude supply, down by 800,000 barrels since December 12, 2014. Another is the world inventory of heating oil is down, also along with distillates, is down by 200,000 barrels since December 12th. And this is just the beginning, people. We haven't even gotten to the hard part yet. Okay, well, let's go over to the board and see what Brent crude is doing today. So there's been many predictions now, some saying that the price will go up and some say the price will go down. I personally don't know. So let's take a look here at what happened today. We started out at about $60 a barrel and went down to a little over 59. Kind of bumped along all the way until about midway, and then we were really low, almost 59, Then we started to go back up and down, up, down, up, down. So overall it was an up day. But the day isn't over, so we don't know if that's it or not. So we'll try and go up and see if there's any barges in San Francisco Bay. We use this to determine the fuel supply here in California, parts of Oregon, and Washington, and other parts of the country. When the barges get below 2 or 3 in the bay, it means that there's a supply interruption. The normal supply of barges in San Francisco Bay tends to be between 4 and 11. When it drops below that, then we know there's trouble. And we know lately that we've seen a lot of days where the barges have been 2 and 3. And now, where the oil barges used to be, they've started parking container barges. I guess because there isn't enough oil barges to pay for the parking. Well, as you can see, there's a lot of freighters in the slots that used to carry oil barges. There seems to only be 2 oil barges in San Francisco Bay. Yesterday there were 3, the day before there were 7, and the day before that there were 2. So as we said in the past, we believe that a lot of this excessive inventory of fuel is being caused because there isn't enough people to buy the fuel. One example is in Russia. The ruble is falling like a rock, and even the car manufacturers are starting to stop their production in making cars in Russia, especially Nissan and Renault, and there are others, because of the decline of the buying that's going on around the world of their cars, so they have an excessive inventory of cars. It looks like the world is going to go into another crash similar to 2008. We'll have to see what happens with the oil market, and I'll keep you posted. One last little article here, and we'll have to go to the board to see that. I know this is pretty rare, but we actually have some good news. It looks like Chevron is going to halt oil drilling in the Arctic altogether for an indefinite period of time. In 2020, Chevron was going to start drilling in the Beaufort Sea in the Arctic. They have already spent $100 million on exploration. I want to thank Greenpeace Canada for their help on getting rid of oil drilling in the Arctic. But in reality, money is the thing that makes change happen the fastest right now. Look at how we have almost eliminated fracking, deep water exploration, Arctic exploration in the oil, and the end of maybe even the pipelines, because there isn't the money for it. Because we the people aren't driving or spending the money on oil products, which is just about everything. So that should give you a lesson. If you want to control what the corporates are doing, keep the money out of their pockets. So there's a lot going on, very busy, trying to keep up with all of what's happening, and I'll put on videos whenever I can, and I appreciate all the comments, the ups and the downs, and the new subscribers. And as I've said before, if you feel like putting a down on the channel, that's cool. Just tell us why. Give us a reason why. Don't just go hit it just to be a troll. You know how that is. So until next time.